UFC 280 is a super stacked card. One of the fights I'm most excited about is Sean O'Malley versus Petr Yan. It's a huge opportunity for Sean O'Malley to jump the queue and potentially get a title shot if he's victorious on the weekend. As for Petr Yan, this is a good opportunity for him to hold the post and maintain his #1 contendership. With the victory here, and depending on what happens in the co-main event, Petr Yan could be right in line for the next title shot as well. Before I get into my breakdown, make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. I have a goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year, so it would be awesome if you guys can help me get there. Now let's jump into Sean O'Malley and what makes this fight intriguing. One of the cool things about Sean O'Malley is his dynamic and creative striking. He operates with a freeness that allows him to really show his personality as he grows and builds in fights. His ability to switch stance is also super commendable. He's good offensively and defensively from both orthodox and southpaw, and that poses a problem for anyone that he's fighting, even someone as good as Petr Yan. Sean is also really good at feigning. He uses these feints to disarm the opponent's defense to create an open shot for himself and a possible finish. He's damn good at doing it. There are a couple of things that I am concerned about for Sean O'Malley as he goes into this fight. First off, his durability. That's always been a question for him because he's had injuries in the past to his lower extremities, and we've seen it really show itself in his fight with Marlon Chito Vera, and there's always been a dark cloud looming over that fight and over Sean O'Malley because of how that ended with the leg injury. The second thing I worry about with O'Malley is his level of competition, and can he carry the same type of performance against higher competition? If you go back and look at that Pedro Munoz fight, although it ended weird with the second round eye poke and the fight was deemed a no contest, Sean O'Malley in that first round was muted based on what we typically see from him from his offensive attacks. He was not as dynamic and creative as he always was. His volume was pretty low, and we typically don't see him that inactive. As far as keys of victory for Sean O'Malley in this fight with Petr Yan, he really needs to get going early. Take advantage of Petr Yan's reputation of being a slow starter. He really needs to gain his respect, come out, throw some good heavy shots, and he also needs to go to the body, go to the legs, and not just headhunt against a striker as good as Petr Yan. Moving on to Petr Yan, he's probably the best overall fighter in the bantamweight division right now currently. He did get beat fair and square by Aljamain Sterling in his last fight. However, his skills are still a problem to deal with for any opponent that's coming in to fight him. He's an excellent kickboxer. His strikes are super dynamic. His Muay Thai is sharp. He also doesn't discriminate on where he hits you. He attacks the legs, he attacks the body, he attacks the head. He is a very complete striker. His grappling is also a problem to deal with. He may not be as good as grappling as Aljamain Sterling, but he is just as good as anybody else in that division. One of the things I really like about Petr Yan is his patience. The reason he has a reputation for being a slow starter is because he is downloading data. It's the old Floyd Mayweather thing where he needs the first couple of rounds to get a feel for what you're trying to do, and then he comes up on the back end and takes you out. That's exactly what Petr Yan does. He likes to understand what his opponent is trying to attack him with, so he can disarm those attacks and then start to deploy his own attacks, and then he starts to seek for finishes. He's also used to 5-round fights, so his cardio is always top tier. He's going to have to start a bit earlier in this fight because it's 3 rounds and not a 5-round fight, which is what he's been fighting for his last umpteen fights. It's honestly a treat to watch what Petr Yan brings into the octagon. I don't really have any criticisms for him other than he got out grappled by Aljamain Sterling, and even then some people thought that Aljamain Sterling was not active enough, and they still gave the fight to Petr Yan. As for Petr Yan's keys to victory, I think for him, he just needs to keep it simple. Don't overreact to any of the crazy things that O'Malley's going to do to him. He should keep it simple, still try to figure out what O'Malley's attacks are going to be early on, but it's going to be important for him to go ahead and start earlier than what he typically starts. He needs to download that data a bit quicker. And I think he can do that if he comes out and he is the hammer and not the nail. Yeah, I think Petr Yan should go in there and test and see how good his grappling is. Maybe he can get top position and hold it for a while, frustrate Sean a little bit, and just mix in his entire MMA game against O'Malley if he wants to get this victory. As for my prediction, I'm going to go with Petr Yan. I just think he is the best fighter in that division. I think he's one of the best fighters in the UFC. I think he can manage the attacks that come from Sean O'Malley and then start to deploy what he wants. One of the other reasons I'm picking Yan is because Sean O'Malley likes to actually have his back up against the cage quite a bit, and that's something that Petr Yan typically feasts off of. It's easier for him to get his grappling going when his opponent's back's against the cage. Also, it's easier for him to throw his power strikes because his opponent can go left or right. They can't go back in this particular case. So Petr Yan will likely take advantage of those positions if Sean O'Malley's back is against the cage. Thank you guys for watching, and remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel.